Hi there. So, welcome to the video where we will be running through platform that we've created. Do you want to say a little bit about the platform itself and what we're going to go through on this video?
Yeah, so here at IWN Analytics, we've built a platform that is mainly to help landlords make decisions and ultimately be more efficient and more profitable in the long run. We've built it through Power BI, and we hope to be able to offer this as a service in the near future.
Fantastic. Yeah, really is excited about it. It's a great tool to help landlords make better decisions. Is this that says it better than anything else. There's lots of extra ways that you get into the nuts and bolts of what it actually does, which we'll go through on the video. But yeah, ultimately helping to be more granular, isn't it? And a little bit more clear and intentional with regards to how you review the performance of your portfolio versus the past, what's happened, and then also to the market more generally. So it's got a lot of cool stuff pulled into one place. So shall we do it without further ado?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So this is the first page. This is the first page. This is looking at past financial performance. There's lots of things on this page, but what I'll do is I'll start from the top, as I think navigation is probably really important here. We've got filters.
How does this info come in? How does this info come in?
So this is directly in from Xero. So we'll get financial information from Xero. And then also there is information in here from a property survey, which we would want clients to fill out, which just gives a few more details on the properties with details which aren't in Xero, basically. Try and help a little bit more with that. And that could be addresses or market values and bits and pieces like that.
Great.
When we get later on into the market insights, this data is taken from Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market, so a whole host of different websites and areas to try and make sure that we can give really valuable insights into what the market's doing at the moment, and then you can compare your property portfolio to what the market's doing at the moment.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Great. So I think navigation and what this page is showing. So this page mainly is from Xero. It will show income, expenses, operating profit, and a few sort of like breakdowns of information here. It's really good to have these filters up at the top, as you can filter by different dates. You can use this slider to filter by date, and it will change all of your information. We can use dates for comparison if you just wanted to compare a certain quarter this year to a certain quarter last year, for example. Or if you wanted to look at individual properties, you can filter by an individual property and it will tell you all of the information for that. Lastly, we have an account filter here. If you wanted to see the financial information for a specific account, we could use, I don't know, interest income. I don't know if there's any on there. Inventory. You can see all of the different information there where we've had an inventory fee against each property and when you've had that cost come into your accounts. So through those filters, it gives you a good amount of functionality to be able to cut the data in numerous ways, try and make decisions on where you can be a bit more efficient.
Awesome. So it gets everything, it pulls it all out of Xero, and basically it's presenting in a more interpretable way. So you've got the prior year profit there, the expenses, and so you can drill down on a property by property basis. What have you got over on the right hand side there? You've got non-profitable properties. Okay, so it's showing what percentage of properties are non-profitable. Okay, so that would be interesting to review for the landlord, so they can they hone in on why that was the case.
Yeah, you certainly can. So with this bar chart, you can just simply click on one of these properties and it will filter all of the data to show exactly what income and expenses you're having and the operating profit. And you can see which accounts you've had your expenses in and your income in.
In the middle there. So you've got current year expenses by account. I see. Fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we've got it anonymized for this demo, but you can see that this is property 19. If you don't want to view it like this, you can filter by property 19, and then you can see it just a little bit more clearly with what expenses are against that property.
So how did this compare then with Zero? If you were to look at this specifically in Zero, what would you get and what would you not get?
It's a good question. So I think Zero wouldn't show you all of this information in one view. They might show you it in a particularly granular view. You'd have to try and delve into the data to try and find this sort of information. What we've done is we've thought about what landlords would likely want to see. So properties which are not operating in a profitable way, and then being able to filter the data and focus in to see why that's the case. And then we can make decisions to hopefully get them performing in a better way.
So it's basically like an interactive dashboard to give the client sort of like easy access to navigate the way around what's working well and what's perhaps not working so well in their portfolio. So how is this supposed to, does this update, would it update automatically? How regular is the landlord supposed to use it? I suppose if you could keep up, if it could be monthly, then that would be great so they can react in the moment to how
we could certainly do monthly. We can call the data from Zero monthly. It entirely depends on how potentially the size of the landlord's portfolio. But I think if you've got a smaller portfolio, maybe things won't change as much.
Sure.
But if you've got a larger portfolio, you might want to stay on top of things a little bit more, because whilst 50% of your properties might not change every single month, it means that 100% of your properties would change every couple of months or 3 months. So it entirely depends on the size of the portfolio.
Fantastic. Great.
Last thing on this page, which I quite like, is you can see this table down here, which shows income, expense, and operating profit. It would be good to see all of the line items which make that up. So we've built that in. Simply right click, go to drill through into transactions, and this shows you a nice table of all of the different transactions which have gone through, which builds up the income and expense and the operating profit or loss in this case. And this really highlights that you could see whether your mortgage fees were too high, whether there's been a refurb on the property and that's why there's an operating loss, or that you just haven't been getting the rental income in that you would have wanted over the year. So there's a number of different things that could be, and being able to drill down into transactional level information from the top view really helps you delve into that information.
Massively. Yeah, definitely. Good. I like that a lot. Great. What we got next?
Perfect. So I'll just go back by clicking that button. So next we go into property specific KPIs. So
okay, awesome.
In a similar vein of trying to think about what landlords would like to see on their properties, we went from past performance and sort of giving a broad overview of financial performance. We've looked and said, well, what are the most important things to landlords? We've thought about annual returns, not just the operating profit, but the appreciation of property, because that's a key thing that landlords are interested in. Interest cover ratio, so knowing how much how your profit is going to cover your interest, because interest is a major expense in owning a property portfolio. And then gross and net yields, and we've benchmarked that against the market as well.
Well, and then what is that, the national market, or is that local to the actual postcodes for the landlord, whoever that may be?
Yeah, so currently we've got a selection of postcodes. So it's a subset at the moment, and this will be a market average of that subset. Now, the data which we've used to build this dashboard had properties with a selection of postcodes. We've then used that to then pull the national averages and the postcode averages for those properties. And so the idea would be that these market averages would look at the postcodes of the portfolio and then benchmark against that. So then it's relative.
So if we go top left to top right, we're going annual appreciation. So that's basically you've annualized the capital growth during the period of ownership. And that's 83.86k per year there, it looks like. Then you've got the operating profit in there, the next icon, and the third icon, annual total return is the sum of, and you've got an ROI. So the landlord can quickly see that across the whole portfolio, they've got an ROI of about 4.87% per year. That's cool, that's useful information. And then how does this work if you presumably the filter function works in the same
The
way.
functions are exactly the same. So we can go back to property 41, and then this filters everything.
Oh,
So
interesting.
then
Yeah.
you can see all of the different KPIs along the top. You can see the profile of your mortgage expense and your rental income. You can see your property value appreciation. And a cool thing about this visual here is if you highlight over, you can not only see the entirety of the property value appreciation over the ownership period, but then you can break down that's a 15% increase over the entire ownership period rather than it just being annualized.
It says how many years it's been owned for, 8.92.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's useful.
Um,
Great. And I like, so at the top
yeah,
right,
sorry.
you've got the gross yield that is pulling through. And I like the fact, so I could see it was going red or green, depending on whether it was higher. So like you've got the green tick and the green font on the items on the top four, and then you got red, which presumably is because it's lower than the market average there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So just actually at a quick glance, you know what you're dealing with, whether it's good, bad, and that's I suppose that's the point.
Exactly that. And one of the good things about this as well is if you can see that a property hasn't been performing in an operating profit manner, you might not mind because it's gaining a good amount of capital appreciation. And so your annual total return would then still be positive, and that could be a thing which you're happy with. If not, we've built in down in the bottom left-hand side, not only the return on capital employed, also a net proceeds of sale. So if you do decide that the property isn't performing in the way which you would want to, you can quickly look to see, okay, if I was to sell the property, how much would I have then to potentially reinvest or take out of the company or take out for the other things?
Okay, so that net proceeds of sale, how are you calculating that? Has that got like tax deducted and
Yes, it does. It's got solicitors' fees, it's got tax, it's got a number of different provisions in there. Mortgage, paying off mortgage, any early repayment fees we can include in there as well. So any expenses which we are going to experience in a sale, we will have provided for those in that calculation.
Please may you just take the filter all the properties again?
Yeah.
It's quite useful because in this case we look at it and we go, okay, so the gross yield in the top right is 5.97%. It's green because it's greater than the market average, but then the net yield is red because it's lower. So straight away I know for this portfolio that there's the actual rental income that's being charged doesn't seem to be the issue, but perhaps on the expense side there's something that's causing the net yield to dip below where we would expect it to be.
Yeah,
so
exactly that.
Interesting. And that's where I suppose we would go back to the previous tab to be able to dig into the expenses to see what's in there. Presumably there's one-off costs that are, or, it can be, I suppose in that year, it might have been, interest rates moving and things like that. But you can start to paint the picture as to why. I suppose this helps you to kind of spot patterns, doesn't it? And then you need to understand why so that you can make decisions moving forward. Is it something that you'll ride out? Is there actually some, portfolio changes that are required? It's that kind of thing. It's giving you the tools, isn't it? Arming you with the information you need.
Exactly that. And it's at the click of a button as well. You don't need to start delving into your zero and trying to pull things out and do all these calculations yourself. Hopefully, most of the things which you're looking to analyze and assess are here already for you. I think, we've got, what I'll do next is just because we're on property value appreciation, we've got it sorted at the moment to be, okay, what property has gained the most in value just in a monetary term, right? But ultimately, you could own a property for a longer period and therefore, hopefully, the appreciation would be more because you've owned it for a longer period than a property that you would own for a lesser period.
Fine, sure.
So you can actually just change the sorting on here by sorting the axes. Instead of it being property value appreciation, you can sort it by the percentage. So then that will give you which properties have, I'll just do that as this, or the other way around. So then these ones at the top here will have the highest property value percentage increase rather than it just being a pound value.
Stand, yep. So they're quite flexible, and I suppose it will just be the case of just having a play around with it and learning all the different functionality, which inevitably will change over
Exactly.
time because these kind of things will iterate and get better as people use them, as landlords get value from it, and
Yeah.
recommend ways that it can be improved. The nice thing about this, I suppose, is it's very flexible. We built it ground up, so we can change things, can't we?
Yeah, we can indeed. Whatever we find the most useful.
Awesome.
And
And a
then I
return on
think,
capital employed you got in there as well, which is cool because that helps them to work out the sort of like the efficiency and utility of them using debt to make their investments. So that's cool. Nice.
yeah. And then the last thing on here in the bottom right-hand corner is occupancy rates. So we've calculated where properties will have less than 100% occupancy. And so again, similar to the charts on the previous tab, we can just click on these and then we can see how they're performing.
Sure.
So if they're under occupied, you can then see whether they're turning a profit or not, and what those yields are, and what the proceeds of sale are, and all those good things that we've already discussed.
Fantastic. Great. What we got next?
Next is market insight. So what this shows is this is where we pull the data in from Zoopla, On the Market, Rightmove, to give average monthly rent prices, average asking prices, and a market yield figure compared to what the portfolio's current gross yield figure is. What we can do here is we can filter by number of bedrooms, property type, postcode, or just the individual properties which you have within the portfolio to then pull through the relevant areas of that property to see how that property is comparing and performing against the market.
Great. Okay. Nice.
So if you want,
it's going to look up the actual postcode itself and be able to give me a good indication as to whether or not I should, for example, put my rent up or yeah.
That's exactly right. And so right at the start of the call, when we were talking about data sources, one of the things which we would need to input into this model is a property survey, which would say what that property 41's type was and how many bedrooms it has, because that's not something which we can get from Zoopla On the Market unless it's been listed before. So for landlords and property portfolio owners to be able to give us that information, we can then compare it directly to the market where they can filter and cut this data as they please.
Love that a lot. Yeah.
Let's see if I can do this. So one really cool thing which I like about this page as well is if you were to say, okay, well, my property is in this area, you can zoom in and see all of the individual properties which have been put up for rent, and you can see their individual monthly rents.
Yeah, I can
If
see
you
that.
were
Yeah.
to say we were on this street, you could click on that and it'll change the average monthly rent figure to that and change the market yield if it was on the average asking price. Now that might be valuable, but what's more valuable if you went to the same area and went, okay, well, if there's a property in the same sort of area with that asking price, you can control click and then change the asking price, have the average monthly rent, and that will give you the market yield for that specific area. So you can start to look at specific areas, specific properties, what the potential asking price is, what the for both rents and sales.
Sorry, can we pull sale price instead of asking price? Could that be something that we have in there as well?
Certainly can, yeah. I think that's on our roadmap to pull in. So it's something which we can also get from a number of different sources to see what recently sold properties have gone for. And so you could switch between the view of whether you wanted to see what was the asking price at a certain time or what's recently been sold. And then you can see, because obviously the market changes, right? It changes really quickly. So if you wanted to see what's sold or what the asking price is, if the market's changed, you could see both of those different views.
So there's the value here, because all of that info you could go and get online, but the value is that it's all we've got it all in this one place where we also house the information about our specific portfolios. We can compare like for like right next to each other. That's quite cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that.
And then another cool thing on this is where you zoom right in. Let's say there's a property which you're interested in. If the road turns blue, like this blue here, you can click into that and it will give you a street view. And if you click this focus mode here, you can open it up to full screen. And so if you imagine that you're looking for a deal and you think, oh, that's a good price for that sort of property, I wonder what it looks like. You can then go to the street view, see what the access is like, see what the outside of the property looks like.
Really useful.
Yeah, just an extra thing that we offer. Back to reports. There we go.
And we're back. Okay, cool. Fantastic. All right, Ben. Well, that's is there anything else you want to go through? Is that everything for now?
Suppose the last thing is management accounts. It's all well and good looking at past performance, good looking at the market, but what's really important as well is setting up a budget, setting up a forecast, and then measuring your performance against those targets. So by combining previous financial performance and seeing how you have performed, what the market's looking like, you can set your targets, and then you can really start to focus in on where you want to be and how you're going to get there and stay on top of it.
Okay, great. So this tab is going to help to be able to do that process.
Yes. Yeah, it will do.
Great. Okay, fantastic. So it's yeah, it's a journey there, starting at past performance, looking at honing in on current performance in terms of different ratios and things, and then looking at the market more broadly. Yeah, I think that's some really useful tools in there. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben.
Perfect.
Great. Well, I hope that was interesting, useful. Any questions you got for us, let us know. And yeah, we're trialing this product with clients at the moment, aren't we, Ben?
Yes, we are. We are. And hopefully they'll see all the value which we see in it and help us tailor it to their needs as well. So it'll keep on improving as time goes on.
Absolutely. Good stuff. All right, Ben. Thanks, guys.
Perfect.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Cheers.